to do an activity depending on the kind of data which is or the fixed system as we make to do a particular processing. So that may this BizTalk orchestration thing will facilitate them not only to make a workflow kind of thing, but also make this workflow act upon the data which comes from some other system and to send the data that could be fed into the system 3 to process it further. This is what I have understood from what I read.
Can I give an example? Like we all know that BizTalk is a very big application and is required for bigger applications, especially at enterprise level. One of those kind of enterprise level application is this that is related to banking. Previously, if you know, since last 20 years, there are number of Unix based systems which are going on. And nowadays, core banking came into existence, and people have started moving their banks to this core banking thing. Now, core banking developments or core banking applications are built with new infrastructure, new technologies, and new database structure. Okay, so they were built separately, but the existing systems were there in the banks itself. So they were required to map with these new technologies and new core banking stuff. Okay, so for that this BizTalk was really useful in a way that whatever the existing Unix based or Linux based systems were there, they were having database in different applications. Okay, they were real time data and they were required to be changed or mapped to the existing system. So at this at that particular place, this BizTalk is most useful and is currently being used for that kind of application at the most. That is what I know.
Yeah,
very good example actually.
Yeah, another one is like if you see his example, like if you see the State Bank of India, different banks are there using a different application, but it is connected. Everything has to be communicated to the central point. It is available in Hyderabad. So all the transaction from different application or different system, it is communicating to the central point which is established by the Reserve Bank of India. It is stored there. So this kind of communication always done through this BizTalk server.
Yeah, and I had one demo regarding this. It was a simple normal one orchestration. I would try to find it out, and if possible I will get it over here so that we can all have a look at it.
What I would like to add with the example that Loro brought in is if you are going to phase out, if a business is going to phase out the older system, then the BizTalk is probably not the right proposal in that, right solution proposed in that, for the reason that it is more like an ongoing thing. So if you're going to leverage the legacy system for a longer run, as well as you want to continue moving on with the newer technologies, then BizTalk will help to connect two different heterogeneous systems.
Yeah.
So the things that I was working for Trust Market, where there is a system like CRM system which is there as a legacy system. It has data, it is being kept up to date all the time, but using different mechanisms. However, when building a new website or when building this new application, they want to still leverage the data from it, and the new application is built using interfaces which are .NET centric. Now, how to connect that? How to connect the data which is in the older format, so flat file format or something similar, into the new interfaces that the application is being built. So what you do is you use BizTalk between that, connect it on the one side to that particular legacy system, where it will throw in the data in that BizTalk orchestration and then send it to the new application. Now the other thing which came in that particular Trust Market application project was most of this data, most of the time this data in the legacy system were huge. So they used to also pipe it. So they use MSMQ. So they will queue all the data which is continuously fed in. And BizTalk has a adapter to listen to specific queue. So BizTalk has different inbuilt adapters like listening to file, listening to SOAP protocol, listening to MSMQ, listening to HTTP, and also now with R2 it's listening to WCF services. So that is like out of box adapters that BizTalk provides. There is also sometimes it may be a necessary thing where you might want to create your own adapter. I have not yet tried an example, but what I gather is you may want to do a routing of a specific message to a totally different application which BizTalk or Microsoft has no clue on that, so they have not got any adapter for that. But then in that case, what Microsoft has given is a set of APIs or BizTalk adapter framework kind of SDK, where you can utilize that and then build your own adapter on top of that. That's more on custom adapter programming. Does it answer what you asked? Like, how does it help in real life situations?
Mostly answered. Just one thing. So, for example, if you talk about a legacy database, let's say if you talk about DBase, or we talk about any third-party database like Sirius, we're using Sirius and Aquila. These are the databases that we're using. Now, if you want to import or get the data from these third-party or legacy databases and then export it to some new database like SQL Server. Now, ultimately, these two databases can only talk on a common ground, and BizTalk provides a common ground to receive and send it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if this legacy database can export the data in its XML, and SQL Server accepts XML, then how does BizTalk enhance this?
Good question. So there are different ways of integrating this. So there is SSIS, which is also kind of a
package,
yeah. So integration services which comes out of SQL Server. It's also, some people they just rely on that. I personally don't know which one is a better option. Like SSIS is better compared to BizTalk, but that can help in just data transformation if it is related to only data transformation. But if it is but if it is more than data transformation, you need to process a business logic inside that, then SSIS gets a little cumbersome in my mind. Where BizTalk is much helpful because then you can connect two different kinds of data with all the logic processing, and not only that, you most of the time don't even need a developer kind of people to do that. A BA kind of people can do that visually and then connect and transform different data into the new system.
Yeah, the same thing. BizTalk provides an additional facility of putting your own logic and having your business logic over there while you are doing the orchestration. So it's not only mapping between two different databases or two different systems. It provides you or facilitates you to have a mapping as well as your own business logic to be implemented at the same point of time. So that's where the BizTalk is little ahead than others.
Okay, now, so for example, if I create my own application which using Windows Workflow Foundation, that's an assembly, which accepts an XML and then runs through a process and then gives the data to SQL Server, wouldn't that suffice this need?
Well, it may, but then I don't know about WWF. So
okay, it's simple. It's just a workflow where there are certain events.
But it's still .NET. It's .NET.
It depends on the .NET framework, right? It's an assembly. Yeah.
Seems that they have given more kinds of adapters to receive requests, the data in form of requests from various kind of sources, which WWF may not. Although there is further in the CHM we have the WCF, how it integrates well with this. But in essence, as like everybody said in the beginning, as I said, heterogeneous system is the main thing. Otherwise, if I was to make a system and if you were to make another one, and some third person said that our system should be able to talk with each other very conveniently, then we would have to be more in agreement with each other and we would need to understand each other's system. But here it makes it easy. Just database, if you're talking about data, that essentially will not come from the database or something, whether it's an old database or new database. It could be any business system which provides you with certain interfaces or certain data after processing, or it can fetch some data from the end user, process the data, output some data. Now, depending on the data which is outputted, this system, a BizTalk system that is probably paid by us and orchestrated by a business analyst, he can have a lot of flexibility on, depending on the kind of input data which comes in, he can do a number of things in that which is much more than what would have been if the example I gave earlier, if you built a system and I built mine, how they would interact with each other.
So BizTalk, that's fine. BizTalk provides a good interface for non-developers to design the orchestration. But what I'm talking is, this is BizTalk, yeah? So if you want to give any data to BizTalk, you cannot give a .jomit file. Can you give to BizTalk .jomit?
Yeah, you have to build adapter.
You
have to build adapters.
There's a flat file adapter. So that's a good point. There's a flat file adapter, and I did a little bit digging on that. BizTalk leverages again XSD, where it can understand a flat file, any damn flat file with any kind of a delimiters, because it is so wide in terms of finding out what are the delimiters, and can understand and extract the data inside the BizTalk. So if it is .jomit, .txt, whatever, as long as it is flat file, it will understand. So it's a text file, flat file, text file, it will just understand.
Yeah. So for example, if you talk about any applications like Tally, as an accounting application, it provides its own format of data, and you need a reader to read that. So for example, Tally exports now, after 7 version, it gives an export of XML format of data. But previous to that, there was no XML support for Tally. So in that case, would BizTalk accept the Tally format and convert it, or do we need to then explicitly create our own adapters? Now, if you are supposed to create our own adapter, which means that we need to understand the legacy, how Tally works, and how Tally stores the data in the files.
So for that, Tally should be provide adapters for that.
Yeah, so which means that, I mean, if I don't know Tally, or I don't know the legacy database of Tally.
Well, no, hang on one
That's the most recommended as I
said. It's a BizTalk adapter, right? So it is a BizTalk adapter will create an adapter.
Yeah, so it might be good.
Yeah, but then it will not be like, you don't need to understand the Tally as an application.
Yeah.
As long as, like, if you have to write it,
the database.
you only have to understand the format, what it comes in. So format of the file, not the database actually, the format of the file that you are receiving. So if you understand that, then it's fine. Like, if you are converting PDF to Word, what does it need to understand? It just need to understand what format it is, what are the delimiters, and what are the different things inside the file. That's it. So the format, actually, in my mind, what I read through is flat file is really very much applicable in this, and XSD and XSLT is highly leveraged in BizTalk. Now, how exactly it is, I have not gone into that, but it is very highly leveraged and it can understand any format right now, as long as that XSD has there is bunch of annotations in XSD which can be utilized to understand the format of a specific flat file.
So what we are assuming here is that the party who wants to give the data and the party who wants to receive the data, they both are in a common agreement of a common data format.
No, actually there's a schema. There's a same schema which is for one schema. Yeah. So and then you map those two schema as a developer, as a PA, you map those schema, and that is where the mapping comes in place. There's a map concept where you create a map. And the map has two different entities. One is what is it called? No. It's called as source schema, and then the destination schema, and then you map them together as part of it.
The mapper is given in the BizTalk, that is Visual Studio 2005. When you make a business application, the mapper would be
found. You can just map that this field is of this field data. This should field. Yeah, but then for this, like for example, I again will give the example of Tally. So for Tally database, to get that XSD, Tally has to explicitly expose some methods or APIs to make that available as an XML format.
XML is recommended.
No, hang on one second. BizTalk automatically does that. BizTalk only when you create a receive port, what you do is you create a receive port which is listening on a protocol file, and BizTalk internally will read this, understand this file using XSD and XSLT of its own. Because whenever you are creating a format, a Tally format file, it must be still using a specific kind of a delimiters, like normally like semicolon or space.
So it's already bytes.
No, it is you cannot see the delimiter.
Okay, so we're talking about another one. So that is a different protocol. This is a binary stream of data. So again, BizTalk. Well, how does it do it? I have no idea. But BizTalk can read any binary stream of data as part of the receive file. So it's not just text file it does, it's not just XML, it can receive, it can also read the serialized.NET class sometimes. So you serialize .NET component and put it there, it will still read that.
And it's the job of the pipeline which processes and assembles it to the XML file that follows the schema that we prepare prior to orchestrating.
I forgot to mention one key thing. Any message in BizTalk has to be a multi-part message, and multi-part message, you probably know, can be identified of what kind it is just because the multi-part is a header and there's a body. So you find it from header that what kind it is, and then the BizTalk will read and extract the data out of it.
Okay, so my understanding would be that whenever you are giving or receiving or sending from BizTalk, you should be in a common messaging ground. So if I give you an example of Tele, after Tele 7.0, you can work with Tele on BizTalk. But before 7.0, I don't see how BizTalk would be able to recognize in what format the data is saved in Tele.
Well, why so? Why so? Let me understand that. Why so?
Because I mean, for example, if you want to look at the code from a DLL, you have to obfuscate it. Yeah. So it was a proprietary format of Tele, and it was going on since 14 years. I mean, nobody was able to extract the data from Tele.
Yes, correct.
But that's
So,
BizTalk will not decrypt data. That's not what its job is. No system will be obviously having built-in understanding of.
That's what I'm talking about. So, for example, if you give an example of our registrars project, we're using a CS third-party database. Now, that CS Parag also knows that how difficult it is to get access to the database and get the data from it. Now, in this case, if I want to extract the data and put it in our shared view, then we need to have a common ground. So there was a facade layer built between CS and our shared view to extract some data from there and put it into our shared database. So there was a whole facade being made. So I think that facade, would that be an adapter? So for example, if I want to get some XSD from that CS database, I have to create an adapter which would have a proper understanding of the CS data and then create an XSD. I don't
know the answer for that, but what I think is there is a way to do that in pipeline. So if you're building a pipeline component yourself, then you can actually do
I think Jamil, what Kamlesh is trying to say is, it's agreed that suppose we are having a Tele file over here, okay, and suppose we want that data directly to a database or SQL, okay. Over here is a BizTalk server, okay. So when you are trying to get this from, means you want particular data from Tele to SQL, there may be something you can do, means which gives you a common ground to convert all these things and give it to here. Means that is all programmatically or something which BizTalk is providing. I don't know about this.
Yeah, but that can only be possible if Tele allows to expose his data into a common format. XML or XSD or anything.
Yes, as I said,
up to the older version like 7.1, so Tele doesn't allow anyone to extract the data from their database.
But there must be some specific database.
Abstract something from it.
Well, one common thing which we miss, BizTalk is not to extract data from something. Okay. BizTalk is to facilitate you to integrate two different systems, let them run individually as well as let them run with say in sync with each other. It's not that you get some data from this thing, get it processed and get it over here. Okay, like you said you created a facade for your registrars project. Okay?
Yeah.
What that facade was containing was a mapping information, right?
I really don't know what was facade.
Okay,
But it would be similar, yeah.
Yeah, so your CDS database was providing data in some format. Okay, then only this mapping could have been possible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So unless data is provided or any information is provided, mapping is not possible.
Yeah.
Okay, so once the data or information is provided, then only mapping is possible.
Yeah.
Now where BizTalk has an